The attacks in Paris have a growing number of governors in this country saying no to Syrian refugees. They say it's for safety.
They say they're concerned that potential attackers could be hiding among the refugees. President Obama pledging to help place 10,000 of those Syrian refugees across the United States over the next year. Meanwhile, two presidential candidates, Senators Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, both say they're going to submit legislation to stop Syrian Muslims from migrating to the United States. Christine Sauvé is the coordinator at Welcoming Michigan. Her organization welcomes the new immigrants to this country, and she joins us from Detroit this morning. Ms. Sauvé, thanks for being with us. I want to take a look at a map. The governors of more than 20 states now saying they won't welcome any Syrian refugees. What's been the reaction among the Syrian American community in Detroit, where you are?
Well, thanks for having me on this morning. It's been pretty disappointing. A lot of our community members are really taken aback and surprised. We've been collaborating with the governor's office and with local governments in a planning process to prepare for more arrivals of Syrian refugees, and this was completely unexpected. So folks are reeling, they're really disappointed, and they're frightened. They're a little bit concerned about possible backlash in their communities.
And also among the governors unrolling the welcome mat, your own governor, we should say that we reached out to Governor Snyder. He declined our interview request, but this is what he had to say. And we have it full screen here. I have directed that we put on hold our efforts to accept new refugees. Now, afterwards, he softened his stance a little bit, but in your opinion, is that too little, too late?
Yeah, well, from our opinion at the Michigan Immigrant Rights Center and the Welcoming Michigan Project, we were incredibly disappointed, and we saw his announcement as a lack of leadership in a critical moment. His statement and then the corrections that he's issued following has only served to stoke a lot of confusion among folks. A lot of people are unfamiliar with the refugee resettlement process, and his statements really just muddied the waters even further. And also, the role of the governors and of the state in general, they don't even really have jurisdiction over the refugee resettlement process. You know, it's a federal process.
This nation prides itself as being a nation of immigrants. I want to read to you the inscription on the Statue of Liberty. It actually says, "A mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles." Mother of Exiles. Do you believe that the ideals that this nation was founded on are now being betrayed?
I do. That's what our country was founded on. That's what most of our American and Michigan residents believe in, and that's what we want to uphold. So we thought it was a lack of moral leadership to lead people astray and sort of stoke fears and heighten concerns in a moment when we really should be bringing people together instead of driving them apart.
But let me push back, because there's somebody out there yelling at the screen right now saying, don't these governors have a right to protect their populations? Or do you believe that they are being political, since all but one so far are Republicans?
Well, we were concerned that there was some sort of message that was trying to be sent. I'm not sure what that is, but the fact of the matter is that we already have really robust security clearance processes, and folks in the refugee resettlement world know this, so it's kind of surprising that this process would be attacked. The American resettlement process is different than the European process. We don't have Syrian refugees showing up at our land borders. They're specifically brought here by the United States through with heavy security clearance checks through the Department of Homeland Security, through the State Department, with the FBI. And it takes, over 2 years or even more for folks to actually arrive here.
So it's not
and there's
easy.
Multiple security clearances. It's not easy. And actually, the resettlement process would be the most unlikely entry point for a terrorist to enter the United States because it is so difficult.
Christine Sauvé joining us from Detroit, Michigan this morning. Ms. Sauvé, thank you very much.
Del, the Paris attacks are having an even bigger impact on the refugee debate in Europe, and the possibility that one of the Paris attackers traveled with refugees through Greece is fueling calls to close the borders. Al Jazeera's Jonah Hill reports.
Of the many dreadful consequences of Friday's attacks in Paris, one key detail may have the widest significance: a Syrian passport discovered near the body of one attacker, its holder having entered Europe via a Greek island as a refugee.
What I fear is that there will be irrational demands for completely closing down immigration flows, especially from Syria.
The passport connection has not yet been proven, but already those calls have begun. This changes everything. The words of a German politician challenging Chancellor Angela Merkel's open-door policy on refugees. Poland has refused to take part in the EU's planned refugee quota system. And here in France, incendiary language from the far-right National Front leader Marine Le Pen, calling for Islamic fundamentalism to be destroyed and illegal foreigners deported.
I think it's going to be harder to be an immigrant and to be a foreigner in Europe.
Yves Shashahani is an asylum lawyer based in Paris.
The extreme right in France and in Europe will seize the opportunity, and it's not a new argument. I mean, they had started talking about this, but the confusion they kind of emphasize is very dangerous between terrorist, and then you slide into Muslim, and from Muslim to Arab, and from Arab to migrant, and they put everything in one lot.
Those who defend Europe's migration policies, the French government among them, have argued over the past few days that it's wrong to connect what happened here in Paris with the refugee crisis, that the hundreds of thousands of people making their way to Europe are fleeing the very people who carried out Friday's attacks. But those voices are in danger of being drowned out by the rising clamour of the populist right. And there is another dimension to consider in the so-called Islamic State's motives for these attacks.
The message from ISIS is come and join us, because the retaliation, the expected retaliation from France and Europeans in general will be so harsh that Muslims will feel that this is somehow an unwelcome home and they've got to go back.
If Friday's attacks succeed in turning Europe against the refugees and even secular Europeans against Muslims in general, that may be the very result that i.s.i.l was aiming for. Jonah Hull, Al Jazeera, Paris.
Also, when we come back,